afternoon. The Senate Labor Committee is called to order. Okay. I will note for the record that we do have a quorum present, and I have also been notified that the Senate floor has just reconvened, and so we do have to recess while they're convening. It should not be very long, but we will go ahead and recess briefly while the Senate floor is in session. Sorry for that, everybody. False start. Good afternoon once again, everyone. Thank you for joining us today for the Senate Labor Committee. We have called to order, and we noted previously we do have a quorum. And the first bill on our agenda today is Senate File 4125, brought to us by Senator Dibble. Senator Dibble, I believe you have an A2 amendment. Would you like to address the amendment before you begin the presentation of the bill, or would you like to share with us some words first?
If we could just adopt the A2 at the outset, and then I would be delighted to address the bill. Very good.
Members, the A2 amendment should be in your packets. If people want to take a look at it quick, this is the first committee that this bill has been heard in, so this is an author's amendment. Members, do I have a motion to adopt the A2 amendment? Senator Umer Verbaeten moves the adoption of the A2. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, the A2 amendment is adopted. Senator Dibble, to your bill as amended.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members, for the opportunity to present Senate File 4125. Just looking real quick. Well, I'll thank my co-authors momentarily if I have any. But very quickly, Madam Chair and members, this is a very exciting project and opportunity, a coming together of a number of community-based organizations who have a real vision and a lot of energy around really getting people situated and connected to our emerging economy. The Rise Up, what this envisions, Madam Chair, is putting together and putting resources towards developing what is to be known by the Rise Up Center, by a nonprofit organization tending the soil and a consortium of a number of organizations. It's an opportunity center and an energy resilience hub for multiracial low-income working families to access pre-apprenticeship jobs and job readiness training in the fields of green energy, construction, service, and food sectors. Led by BIPOC, labor, and power building organizations, the center will be capable of training up to 3,000 Minnesotans annually. The vision is to create pathways for families to access good union jobs, to foster economic prosperity and success in the new green economy. The location envisioned would be at the former YWCA in the uptown area of Minneapolis, which is envisioned to be a net zero building built to low or no carbon design standards. It's 70,000 square feet. It's a two-story building, highly accessible, surrounded by pedestrian-friendly and transit corridors, etc. It'll have training spaces, classrooms, meeting rooms, and office space, and it'll have the ability for dozens of workforce development programs. It would envision recruiting and training many BIPOC individuals, low-income folks to participate in job training and placement programs. It will allow already operational apprenticeships, such as high-rise window cleaners, community safety specialists, green certified cleaners training conducted by SCIU 26, a commercial kitchen certification program conducted by Unite Here, Local 17. It will grow and expand those programs. In 2023, these programs trained 400 union members, provided on-ramps to good jobs, stable careers that benefit individual workers and the community at large. The programs and all the supporting infrastructure around those programs will address barriers commonly faced by many people, such as women, immigrants, people of color, and those without a high school degree, and those who have past involvement in our criminal justice system. So with that, Madam Chair, we have a couple of folks here who are ready to also share some thoughts. Oh, I thought I would mention just quickly, I mentioned a couple of the organizations who are involved, but I just mentioned some of the others, Unidos and the New Justice Project. I mentioned SEIU Local 26, the UFCW, the United Food and Commercial Workers Local 663, the Building Dignity and Respect Standards Council. I mentioned Unite Here Local 17, and the Minnesota Training Partnership, the Future Builders Cooperative, and kind of coordinating and organizing the initiative is Tending the Soil. So we have Rod Adams here from the New Justice Project who would like to share some thoughts.
Thank you. Rod Adams?
Thank you, Madam Chair and members of the committee.
Thank you. If you'd please introduce yourself formally for the record and
Rod Adams,
proceed with your testimony.
Rod Adams. So my name is Rod Adams, Executive Director of the New Justice Project Minnesota. We're a Black worker center that for the last 3 years has connected dozens in the Black community, many who are just as impacted to union careers in the construction industry. We're also proud partners in the Rise Up Center. More specifically, we are partners in forging a pathway towards equitable union careers in the green economy with Unidos Minnesota. Organizations are at the leading edge of this work because our members, many Black and brown, understand what occupational segregation looks like. They know that the lack of economic mobility, they know what the lack of economic mobility looks like, but we also know we are on the precipice of creating a new way forward with the Rise Up Center. An investment in the Rise Up Center is critical to creating the capacity our state and region needs to fill essential careers in several growing industries. And for our members at the New Justice Project, it's a crucial piece in readying communities of color for a green transition. Right now in Minnesota, there's 60,000 Minnesotans who work in the clean energy sector. And we're expected to add 40,000 more jobs to that tally by 2030. But less than 1% of those jobs are occupied by people of color. Additionally, we've seen record investment in green jobs and careers from federal, state, and municipal governments. It's more than clear that the green transition is here, and with that, the reshaping of our economy. The Rise Up Center represents an opportunity for us to get the green transition right. To push back on decades long of racial disparities many of us in this room have worked tirelessly to correct. To do that, we must invest early and strategically because this moment is too important for our state's workforce, because the way we view it, the center is not only a training hub for Minneapolis, but a space that will offer multiple resources and routes to gainful employment for an entire region. It offers the opportunity to train thousands of Minnesotans in careers where industry growth has outpaced the available workforce. Now, the partners in the Rise Up Center represent a diverse coalition of labor and community partners. Together, we represent half a dozen industries and thousands of working-class Minnesotans. We share many values, and most importantly, we share a bold vision, a vision that our members and the broader communities we represent all over the state of Minnesota deserve a route to union careers and the economic mobility that a historic investment like the Rise Up Center offers them. The Rise Up Center stands as an opportunity for our great state to look forward together and to build a future that we will see thousands of Minnesotans lifted out of poverty and dead-end jobs and into careers that pay a living wage. We do this with a focus on the economic futures of those left behind in the past large-scale and federal infrastructure investments, and we do this together forging a binding partnership with public, private, and community stakeholders, saying we will take on the challenge of shifting our state's economy together and be better off because of it. The passage of this investment in the Rise Up Center represents an investment in the best of our Minnesota values, of finding innovative solutions to the problems that plague our most marginalized and vulnerable communities, and away from the mistakes we have made in the past that have held our communities back. So with that, I want to thank you for the opportunity to testify and urge for the passage of the bill.
Thank you for your testimony. And then next on our list, we have Deborah Prokop.
That's right.
If you'd please introduce yourself and proceed with your testimony.
Good afternoon, Chair McEwen, members of the committee. My name is Deborah Prokop. I am with the Minnesota Training Partnership. I'm here today to speak in support of Senate File 4125. Minnesota Training Partnership is a 501c3 workforce development organization that creates pathways towards sustainable careers through collaborative partnerships. We work with unions, community organizations, and employers across multiple industries to build on-ramps to family-sustaining jobs. For example, with some of our Rise Up Center partners, we have established a registered apprenticeship program for high-rise window cleaners, only the second such program in the nation. Created a registered apprenticeship program for community safety specialists in North Minneapolis, which equips local residents with skills such as de-escalation and mental health crisis response. We have implemented a green cleaning training program for janitors, which results in a certification from the U.S. Green Building Council. And we have developed a comprehensive bilingual hospitality training program to help rebuild the hospitality workforce, which was devastated by the COVID-19 pandemic. In addition, Minnesota Training Partnership runs several programs that are open to the community, such as a Union Jobs for Women program to help connect low-income women with high-wage careers in non-traditional fields. We have a program to train clinic assistants for roles in Health Partners clinics. We run a SNAP employment and training program to help job seekers with food support, training, and job search assistance. And we have a dislocated worker program to help laid-off workers upskill and find new employment opportunities. As you can see, Minnesota Training Partnership plays a key role in helping workers advance in high-demand industries while helping employers fill their critical workforce needs. We look forward to continuing and expanding this work with our partners in the Rise Up Center. The support offered by Senate File 4125 will help to ensure the ongoing viability of this diverse training hub in our community. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. That concludes the testifiers that we have signed up for this bill. Senator Dibble, before we begin discussion, are there any other comments that you'd like to leave us with?
Nope, not at present. I think the testifiers did a great job. We have Kat Solonik here, who's my phone a friend.
Very good.
In case the questions get too hard.
Great. Thank you very much, Senator. Members, with that, I'll open up to discussion. Yes, Senator Dornick.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Senator Dibble. Welcome to the Labor and Industry Committee. I think it's been the first time that you've been.
I think it is, yes.
So welcome. Thanks for your project, your bill. One question I have is I see it was introduced in both the House and the Senate in the Capital Investment Committee. Wondering why this is a capital investment, a good capital investment bill, why it's here in Labor.
Senator Dibble.
Thank you, Senator Dornick. It's here because it really does have a apprenticeship workforce development kind of focus to it, and it seems like a kind of initiative that this committee and the agency that we're asking to make the grant would have particular focus on. So.
Senator Dornick.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Senator Dibble. The other question is, I see it's in the bill it had $9 million allocated, and then now in the amendment it's a blank appropriation. So I'm just curious to why that is.
Senator Dibble.
Thank you, Senator Dornick, because I'm working in active conversation with the chair and leadership to see what might be possible in terms of the resources that could be brought to bear through this committee. So I'm relying on you to prevail upon the chair to drive up her target. So, yeah, I mean, it just remains to be seen what might be possible. And so we thought it would be prudent to have that kind of active conversation rather than coming in with a set amount.
Yeah.
Right, thank you.
Follow up? Okay. Senator Grunhagen.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, I have an amendment.
Okay.
It's the A3.
Okay. And we'll make sure everybody gets a copy of the A3 amendment. And while we're doing that, to your amendment, Senator Grunhagen.
It's a pretty simple amendment. It just says the Commissioner of Labor and Industry must annually report to the legislative committees with jurisdiction over the economic development workforce, on the results. So I think we've got this in quite a few other bills just so that we understand what's exactly been accomplished and where the money has gone. And I think it's a friendly amendment if in talking with Senator Dibble.
Okay. Senator Dibble, to the A3.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you for the amendment, Senator Grunhagen. I think it is a prudent amendment. I think it's important for us to understand how the resources that we appropriate are being used and to what effect. That's our job as legislators. We might need to tweak the dates a little bit here, but, you know, we can figure all that out later. I think it's a good amendment. I would encourage the committee to accept it.
Okay, very good. Any further discussion on the A3 amendment? Okay. All right, we're good. We'll go ahead and Senator Grunhagen moves the adoption of the A3 amendment. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? The A3 amendment is adopted. Members, further discussion or questions for the author of Senate File 4125 as amended? Oh, okay. Senator Grunhagen?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, and I think the goal of the bill is laudable, and we want to train people in an area where they can earn an income, a living wage, and provide for their families. The question I have is, do they, you know, there's a number of areas, I forget the lady who was up here, who, where did she go? Oh, there she is. She'd like to return.
Ms. Prokop?
Ms. Prokop.
Prokop, yeah.
Yeah, you know, I appreciated all the different areas that they'll be trained in as far as work. Do you work with a technical school, or how do you coordinate it in any way, or how does that work?
Thank you,
Prokop?
Senator Grunhagen. In some cases, we do. Very often, registered apprenticeship programs have a community college partner. Some of the training programs that are not registered apprenticeship programs don't necessarily have a community college partner, but we routinely partner with community colleges in delivering some of the registered apprenticeship training that we offer.
Senator?
Oh, thank you. Thanks, Madam Chair. Yeah, thanks for that response. The other thing, so the appropriation would pay for the cost of the courses then? Or what does the appropriation go towards?
Senator or our guest, Ms. Prokop?
Madam Chair, I'll field that question. The majority, if not the entirety of this appropriation would help prepare the facility for the programs that would then come in and support. However, it's important to note that these funds will help with a number of other funds that would be privately raised, as well as raised from other jurisdictions, and then would also, of course, spur the fund. Some of the programs would come in programmatically, through the labor unions and through the existing relationships with DEED and the MnSCU system and the like, as well as through private philanthropy as well. So a lot of the programming would come in behind this for training purposes, for the service delivery elements.
Senator, any follow-up? Okay. Yes, Senator Liskey.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, Senator Dibble, just a couple of quick questions. One is, if the $9 million that you were originally asking for doesn't come through this committee and we only are able to do so much, are we still going to be able to do the task at hand, or is it not going to be enough, and where are we going to result from that?
Senator Dibble.
This is where I will phone my friend. I will take a stab at it, though. We'll take what we can get, although we really hope to get 9. But maybe Ms. Solonic can respond.
Absolutely. Kat Salonik-Schlag, Executive Director of Tending the Soil, Minnesota. I'm going to attempt to just add on a little to what the Senator already shared to Senator Dornan, because I answer your question, Senator Leask. So the Capital Investment Committee invested $1.5 million in the acquisition of the property, which is underway right now. And so you're asking a great question, well, then why is this workforce development if capital investment was already approached? Capital investment assists with getting the space. Now we need to turn the space into workforce development. So Senator Liskey, the funds we need in order to turn this into workforce development facility is $9 million. And so if you want to have the programs running, as Senator Grunhagen said, they're laudable. In order to get that to happen, we're going to need that $9 million. And so we're going to ask you to dig deep and look at what's in the wallet this year.
Senator Liskey, any follow-up?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, just one other question. So reading through this bill, it doesn't say that it's only for union workers or only for union entry
Correct.
level jobs. I would assume that means that anybody in theory can participate with this program. Is that correct?
Correct. No, oh, may I answer, Senator?
Say, Madam.
Yeah.
Please go ahead.
I just want to make sure you don't want to answer first. Madam Chair, Senator Liskey, the programming is mainly open to non-union workers. So the hope is that workers will be fined dignified labor in long-term employment. The Rise Up Center will be a statewide programming. And we know that a lot of the workers that, or would-be workers, low and no-income Minnesotans, get the best results when they're a part of a union. But that means that a lot of them aren't yet. And at the end of the day, they may or may not end up in a union pathway. Only three of the 9 partners that we do in workforce development programs are unions. The rest are not.
Any follow-up, Senator?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yes, I just want to follow up saying, like I said, the goal, and like Senator Gruenhagen has said, the goal is laudable. I think it's an important thing of trying to find people more education, more hands-on skills, whatever, however you want to get about that to get a livable wage job. I mean, I think that's something that we should all be striving for, right, is trying to find ways to help people up, help give them a leg up, and how we get there. At this point, I'm not here to argue about how we get there. I'm here to just say, let's find ways to do it. And so I do look forward to seeing how this might play out. Thank you.
Very good. All right. Senator Dibble, it looks like our discussion and questions have concluded. Would you like to leave us with any thoughts before we lay over your bill for possible inclusion?
Just to, I think I had indicated previously, but I'll just say again, this is an exciting project for all the elements that it contains, but it's most exciting because it's a real coming together of a lot of partners, really in connection and community, creating a vision and creating a coalition and really working at the grassroots to articulate to us what kinds of things they need. And then working with us to try to put that vision together and find the resources. And so just to see the groundswell of support is just so positive and encouraging. So I invite everyone to take a look at the materials in your packet, and I bet you a bunch of money that they would be excited to bring you on a little tour of the facility and talk about the vision. I've been on the tour twice, and I just get even more excited every time I see it and hear how excited they are.
Thank you. It sounds like a Senate Labor Committee field trip is brewing. Thank you very much for bringing this bill before us. Thank you very much to the testifiers and all of the people who have come here in support of the bill. It sounds like a very exciting project. We will continue this work and see what we can do. And in the meantime, Senate File 4125, as amended, is laid over for possible inclusion.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members.
Thank you. Members, we're going to now turn over, I'm going to go up to the testifier table and present our Senate Labor Finance Omnibus Bill. And I just wanted to make a note for all of our members and for people in the audience and testifiers. For the Eid recess today, the Senate is recessing formally for Eid at 5 o'clock sharp. So because of that, we need to also have a hard stop at 3 to respect the other committees that are going to need to come in here. I want to make sure that we keep things moving along. And I mentioned that just to make sure that we're all mindful of our timing here this afternoon. But with that said, I look forward to some robust discussion, and I will hand over the gavel to our Vice Chair.
Okay, Chair McEwen, Senate File 5266, to your bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I believe, it looks like maybe, 52. Sorry, I just had a little typo. Members, it is my great honor today to present to you Senate File 5266. Before I offer my comments, I would like to go ahead and adopt the A2 delete all amendment, and so that the bill is in the form for us to begin our discussion about it. So that A2 DE amendment should be in everyone's folders, and I'd like to move its adoption.
Okay, Senator McEwen moves the A2 delete all amendment. Any discussion? Seeing none, those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The amendment passes. Senator McEwen.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Likewise, I do have an A7 technical amendment. This just changes a couple numbers, a little bit of language here and there. And again, just make some technical changes and whatnot that came in after the A2 was put together. So I would also move the adoption of the A7 amendment.
Senator McEwen moves the A7 amendment. Any discussion? Senator Dornick?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. So I guess, Senator McEwen, if you could walk through some of the stuff we just got these, and there's quite a bit of stuff to go through. So more on page 2, that section there, with I see the employee of University of Minnesota, that section. So 213 to 232, if you could just go over that a little bit, I appreciate it.
Yeah. Mr. Chair, and Senator Dornick, be happy to do that. I'm going to go ahead and ask if our committee counsel, Ms. Doyle-Fontaine, would be willing to do a quick walkthrough of the A7. And then also in our discussion of the bill, there are testifiers here that will be able to speak to some of the sections of the bill that are contained in the A7 as well. So we will have a robust discussion also as we move through.
Great. Ms. Doyle-Fontaine.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair, members, and Senator Dornick. I'll just go through the whole A7. So lines 1.3 to 1.11 are related to the removal of Article 9, which is at the end of this amendment. Article 9 is the article on patient care retaliation enforcement. So all of that is just as a result of removing that article. Then lines 1.12 to 1.28. These are some technical suggestions. Some came from our state government council, who looked at the language and had some suggestions. My understanding, and this is the PELRA article, and my understanding is that the Data Practices Office at the Department of Administration also had some suggestions, I think MMB, and then some labor union representatives also might have had some suggestions. So if they do come up to testify, they can certainly speak to the exact nature of these changes. Then beginning on line 1.29 to 2.13, this was also a suggested clarification. I believe maybe coming from some union representatives regarding employer succession for earned sick and save time. But it is a clarification just to make sure that when there is a successor employer and how employees are transferred, that they would get their sick and save time that was earned at the time of the transfer. Then on line 2.14, that line was a revisor request. They wanted a word change from over to older. That is a piece that was in Senator McQuaid's bill on contact creation for minors. And then lines 2.15 to 2.30. These again are some technical suggestions, again from our Senate counsel for the State Government Committee. And they also might have come from some labor representatives. And this is to the article on University of Minnesota bargaining units. And then finally, the last change is on line 2.31. This is the piece that would remove or delete the entire Article 9 on the patient care staff retaliation protections. And that is the amendment.
Thank you, Ms. Doyle-Fontaine. Senator Dornick, I believe you had asked, did you have any follow-up questions? Okay. Senator Gruenhagen, did you have, you're good, okay. Any other discussion about the A7 technical amendment? Okay, seeing none, those in favor say aye. Aye. Excuse me, those opposed say nay. The amendment passes. Senator McEwen.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, members. In the same vein, I have one more technical amendment, is the A16. And if there are questions about this, also I would ask perhaps our Senate counsel could comment on it. But this is a technical change that came in at the last minute, so it's just in the form of a separate amendment.
Great. Ms. Doyle-Fontaine.
Mr. Chair, members, I would agree that it was presented to me as technical, and I see it as a technical amendment.
Thank you. Any discussion? Okay, seeing none, those in favor of the A16 amendment say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Okay, the A16 amendment passes. Senator McEwen, did you have anything else before testimony?
Just some brief opening remarks, Mr. Chair.
Certainly.
Thank you. Members, as I said, it's my pleasure and honor to present Senate File 5266 as amended, the Senate Labor Finance Bill. This bill is a culmination of the hard work that members, staff, testifiers, and advocates have invested this session and throughout this last year. Article 1 of the bill includes account transfers and appropriations to help our agencies do the valuable work they do and to fund the provisions in this bill. Article 2 contains combative sports language updates from DLI. Article 3 includes updates requested by the Bureau of Mediation Services. Article 4 contains updates to the Public Employee Labor Relations Act that reflects significant work from labor advocates to improve PELRA in Minnesota. Article 5 contains Senator Pappas's bill that updates the Earned Sick and Safe Time law we passed last year, reflecting collaborative work between DLI, businesses, organized labor, and other stakeholders to improve the bill. Article 6 contains Senator Pappas's bill making sure all employees access to records that employers have access to records that employers keep on them. It also includes Senator McQuaid's bill to protect youth who are featured in content creation, and Senator Gustafson's bill to protect workers who are exposed to lead in their workplaces. Article 7 includes Senator Mitchell's bill to require the state building codes be updated to include some level of electric vehicle capable spaces and parking spaces. It also includes language from DLI updating the contractor recovery fund. Article 8 includes my bill to effectively restore collective bargaining rights to U of M employees who are prevented from exercising their labor rights by statute. I ask that you review the materials in your packets. You'll see there's a number of letters of support for that particular provision. It has gone through a couple of other committees and is now here before us, so we can have some good discussion on that bill today. But there's a number of letters of support from a broad coalition for that section in Article 8. And I ask respectfully for your support. We're carrying this language here to resolve the mismatched jurisdiction with the House for PELRA. Article 9 has been removed by the A7 amendment, so that is no longer a part of the bill at this time. Members, as you know, I'm very committed to fighting for working Minnesotans and ensuring that everyone in our state has the protections and support they need to lead healthy and dignified lives. I thank very much the countless community members, testifiers, and workers who advocated passionately for these bills in our committee and in the Senate. It is my belief that this bill puts the people of Minnesota first. Colleagues, I respectfully ask for your support to pass Senate File 5266 as amended. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator McEwen. Would you like Eric to go through the spreadsheet?
If the chair is amenable to that, and yes, thank you.
Great. Mr. Olson.
Mr. Chair, members of the committee, in your packets, there are two spreadsheets, but towards the back of your packet, there should be a spreadsheet titled 2024 Labor Committee SF 5266 A2 change items as amended by the A7. So this reflects the bill in its current form after removing the Article 9 appropriations. So I'll give you a little time to find the spreadsheet, but column A goes through the different change items. So this is purely a change item spreadsheet. Column B goes through which fund the change items are coming from. Column C goes through whether it's a direct or a statutory appropriation. We'll focus on columns J through O. That's Senate File 5266 as amended by the A7 and the A2. So starting on line 7 for the labor standards, we are first in the labor standards division. So line 8 shows the earned sick and safe time rulemaking cancellation from Senate File 3787 of $310,000 in fiscal year 25. Line 9 shows the earned sick and safe time rulemaking reappropriation with extended availability through fiscal year 27. This was also in Senate File 3787. Moving on down to line 10, there's a labor standards tails reduction of $69,000. This was in fiscal year 27. This was put into the labor standards division last year without direction towards a transfer, so this now just cancels that money. On line 11, this comes from Senate File 3544. This is for private sector personnel records to inform and educate employers. This is $141,000 from the general fund starting in fiscal year 25 and ongoing, so $282,000 from the general fund in the tails. So for a total general fund on line 12, a total general fund cost of $141,000 in fiscal year 25 and $141,000 in fiscal year 26 and $72,000 in FY 27. Moving on down to line 15 for the workplace safety division. This is for rulemaking for the acceptable blood lead levels for workers. This comes from Senate File 4600. This comes from the Workers' Compensation Fund. This is a direct appropriation, one time, of $279,000 in FY 25 and $143,000 in FY 26. Moving on to line 19, this comes from the governor's recommendation for the changes to the Office of Combative Sports. Technical fix, it's budget neutral. Moving on down to line 23, this is from Senate File 4298 for EV charging infrastructure. This is for a small rulemaking in FY 25 of $47,000 from the Construction Code Fund. This is a statutory appropriation. Moving on down to line 27, this is another governor's recommendation for the Contractor Recovery Fund, a cap increase that we discussed in committee last week. This is expected to increase expenditures from that account of about $228,000 from the Special Revenue Fund each year beginning in fiscal year 25. Lines 31 and 32 wrap the appropriations in the Bureau of Mediation Services back into their base appropriation rather than having the direct riders for the police officer grievance arbitration roster and the labor management committees. So this just wraps it into the base appropriation for the Bureau of Mediation Services, so it's also budget neutral. Moving on to line 40 on the spreadsheet, this is for acceptable blood levels for workers to the Department of Health. This is for them to provide assistance on the rulemaking. It's $174,000 one time in fiscal year 25 with availability through fiscal year 26 in case the rulemaking takes a little longer. Moving on to line 44, this is appropriation to the Attorney General's office for the minors appearing in content creation for enforcement to the Attorney General's office. There's this is from the general fund. It's a direct appropriation. It's $120,000 in FY 25, but that's made available through FY 26 with the additional 120 in FY 26 for the anticipated costs of $240,000 for that fiscal year. And there's also $240,000 in FY 27 appropriated towards the Attorney General's office. Line 48 shows that for labor relations staffing costs, there's currently a blank appropriation in the bill. This is to the University of Minnesota. This is anticipated to come from the general fund. Moving on to the back page, page 2 of the spreadsheet on line 52, there's also a blank appropriation to Minnesota State for the changes in Senate File 4597 for the student worker changes. It's currently a blank appropriation showing no cost. Showing a blank cost currently. So on line 58, the total expenditure changes in the bill is $435,000 from the general fund in FY25. $261,000 in FY26 and $312,000 in FY27. Line 59 shows the workers' compensation fund for the rulemaking of $279,000 in FY25 and $143,000 in FY26. Line 61 shows that construction codes rulemaking of $47,000 in FY25, and then for the special revenue fund, it's $228,000 in 24-25 by AM and $456,000 in 26-27. Moving on down to line 66, that shows anticipated revenues to the Attorney General's office of $90,000 in FY27 for the content creator compensation for minors from enforcement. So this is an anticipated fine or penalty revenue of $90,000 in FY27. And then line 70 shows for Senate File 4745, a bill that's moving separately. This is from the Workers' Compensation Advisory Council. There's additional compensation penalty revenue of $6,000 ongoing beginning in FY25. This is to the Workers' Compensation Fund. And then this, excuse me, this spreadsheet also tracks a bill that's moving separately. It's Senate File 4483, the Workers' Misclassification Bill. It anticipates expenditures, this is on line 76 from the general fund, of $56,000 in line, this is on, line 76, $56,000 in FY25, then $140,000 combined for the tails from the general fund. And then also on line 77, one-time cost of $143,000 to the Department of Revenue for the worker misclassification bill. For total expenditures of bills moving separately of 190, this is in the general fund, of $199,000 in FY25, and then $70,000 on $70,000 in FY26 and $70,000 in FY27. Line 81 shows anticipated revenue, penalty revenue from the worker misclassification bill of $737,000 to the general fund in FY26, and again $737,000 in FY27. So just looking at net total general fund changes, it's a net increase, net impact of $634,000 in FY25. This is on line 91. And then net savings of $406,000 in FY26 and $445,000 to the general fund in FY27. And with that, that concludes my walkthrough. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Olofsson. Any questions?
Mr. Chair.
Senator Dornick.
So what is the target then for this bill?
Mr. Olofsson.
Mr. Chair, Senator Dornick. So on line 93, you can see the labor jurisdiction received a one-time target of $1 million from the general fund. This bill, while also tracking the worker misclassification bill, meets that target. There is a general fund remaining target on line 94 of $366,000 for FY25, and due to the net savings, there's net $406,000 in FY26 and $445,000 in FY27. Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, seeing none, we'll move into testimony. We'll start with Minnesota Department of Labor and Industry Commissioner Nicole Blissenbach. I think if she's, oh, yep, there she is.
afternoon, Chair and members of the committee. Thank you for the opportunity to testify today. My name is Nicole Blissenbach. I'm the Commissioner of the Minnesota Department of Labor and Industry. I'm pleased to be here today to support Senate File 5266, the Supplemental Budget Omnibus Bill for Labor. I want to thank Senator McEwen for including all of the department's supplemental budget priorities in this bill. These priorities include modifications to the Contractor Recovery Fund, the Office of Combative Sports, and Earn Sick and Save Time. The Contractor Recovery Fund, which is funded by a fee on residential building contractor licenses, compensates owners or lessees of residential property in Minnesota who have suffered an actual and direct out-of-pocket loss due to a licensed contractor's fraudulent, deceptive, or dishonest practices, conversion of funds, or failure of performance. The proposal before you today enhances the effectiveness of the Contractor Recovery Fund by increasing the amount of funds available to compensate homeowners who have suffered a financial loss. The maximum amount a homeowner can receive from the Contractor Recovery Fund per application is currently $75,000. This proposal would increase the maximum amount a homeowner can receive to $100,000. Increasing the maximum payout will allow homeowners to recover more of their out-of-pocket losses when a licensee fails to perform the contractual obligation. The combative sports changes in Senate File 5266 include technical fixes to the law that passed last year, such as adding rule sets for Muay Thai, allowing alternative rule sets for kickboxing, and clarifying that while youth events aren't regulated by the Office of Combative Sports, they must be regulated by a third party. In addition, proposed changes add basic experience requirements for individuals looking to be licensed as a combatant. These requirements will ensure that the Office of Combative Sports is licensing individuals who have been properly trained to safely compete at both the amateur and professional level. The bill also amends the event fee calculation to accommodate promoters who pay a flat venue fee but do not sell tickets. This budget-neutral change in the fee schedule will ensure that promoters are all paying the same amount based on a percentage of the revenue they make, either through the sale of tickets or through flat rate contractual agreements. Finally, the bill includes modifications to the Earn Sick and Save Time law. These provisions in this bill were formed as the department implemented the Earn Sick and Save Time law. DLI conducted extensive outreach and education for employers and heard from them about many of the challenges they were having implementing the Earn Sick and Save Time law. Their feedback was instrumental in crafting many of the provisions of this bill. Some of the highlights coming out of the conversations include new requirements for providing Earn Sick and Save Time on earning statements that are reflected in Article 5, Sections 4 and 12, and the new rate of pay language in Article 5, Sections 5 and 6. DLI also heard from employee organizations about how the Earn Sick and Save Time law could better meet the needs of working people in the state, and their feedback was also instrumental in crafting the provisions of this bill. So with that, thank you for the opportunity to testify, and I will remain in committee if there are questions for me.
Thank you, Commissioner. Next, we have Stephanie Spanja, and I believe they're online. If you could turn on your camera and state your name and title, and please proceed with your testimony.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Thank you, Chair and members of the committee. My name is Stephanie Spanja, and I'm a senior attorney with the Airline Pilots Association, ALPA, and I'm here to speak in favor of 3787. ALPA represents over 77,000 pilots across 41 airlines in the U.S. and Canada. We're here on behalf of our Minnesota-based pilots who are currently excluded from the protections of the ESST law. We believe that excluding Minnesota-based flight crew members from the ESST is not only unfair, but it is unnecessary. It is unfair because Minnesota-based flight crew need and deserve the same protections as other Minnesota-based employees. And it is unnecessary because, contrary to what you may have heard from airline representatives, state and local paid sick leave laws are not preempted by federal law. The Airline Deregulation Act of 1978, the ADA, prohibits states from re-regulating those things that had once been regulated by the federal government: rates, routes, and services. Simply put, ADA preempts state laws that relate to the airline customer relationship, not state laws that regulate the employer-employee relationship. In 2016, Washington State enacted a paid sick leave law similar to Minnesota's. That law was challenged in federal court by Airlines for America, and in 2021, the Ninth Circuit found that Washington's law is not preempted by the ADA because it does not regulate the airline-customer relationship. A4A filed a petition with the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court denied cert and refused to take the case. By repealing the flight crew exclusion, Minnesota will ensure that Minnesota-based flight crew will be able to take sick time to tend to their own and their family members' illnesses and medical treatment without having to worry about being penalized for attending to those basic needs. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much for your testimony. Next, we have Jen Klassman, Minnesota Management and Budget. Apologies if I mispronounced your name. Welcome to the committee. Please state your name and title for the record and go ahead with your testimony.
Thank you, Chair. My name is Jennifer Klausman. I'm the Enterprise Director of Labor Relations at Minnesota Management and Budget. Thank you. We appreciate the work of Chair McEwen and our labor partners in the amendment to the Pell Row provisions today. So I might be early. We see the need for continued work on Article 4, Section 17, the updates to 179A.13, Subdivision 2. Particular, starting on line 28.5, number 13, we would look to continue to refine this language to ensure a balance between the volume and nature of material that may be requested and the timeliness that it must be produced. And we also hope for continued discussion on item 15, as this matter is already addressed in Chapter 43A and as well as administrative procedure. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your testimony. Next, we have Tracy Blassenheim. Dr. Tracy Blassenheim. Welcome to the committee. Please state your name and title for the record and go ahead with your testimony.
Good afternoon, Chair and Senators. My name is Dr. Tracy Blassenheim. I'm a lecturer in political science at the University of Minnesota. I've worked at the U for over a decade, and during that time, I've educated countless students on U.S. foreign policy and foreign affairs. I've helped them land jobs and grad school admissions, and I've secured tens of thousands in research grants from my university. Yet because of the Public Employment Labor Relations Act, or PELRA, I'm classified as staff rather than faculty, and my job is defined by precarity. I work on last-minute, short-term contracts for unlivable pay, and I have no academic freedom protections or benefits. In any other workplace, I could unionize with my colleagues to address these shared issues. I'm here today because Minnesota law makes that impossible. If the esteemed members could find the document Bargaining Unit 11 in their packets, they will see the problem for themselves. It looks like this. This is my mandated bargaining unit under PELRA. If it's hard to read, I can assure you it was even harder to fit on a double-sided sheet. To form a union, my colleagues and I would have to organize thousands of staff specialists in HR, IT, marketing, athletics, student services, and plenty more from across the U's 5 campuses, but not faculty instructors. PELRA puts them in Unit 8. We teach the same courses, but the law bars us from bargaining together. Unit 11 is just one of 4 gerrymandered bargaining units in PELRA. These units put collective bargaining entirely out of reach for over 2/3 of the U's workforce. Article 8 offers a common sense solution to this mess. It removes these extraordinary barriers and lets us play by the same rules as other public sector employees. Over 2,000 U employees have signed a petition urging you, our representatives, to end state-sanctioned union busting at the University of Minnesota. Our need is urgent, but our request is simple. Unrig PELRA and restore our right to form unions if we so choose. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your testimony. Next, we have Ian Ringenberg. Welcome to the committee. Please state your name and title for the record and go ahead with your testimony.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Senators. My name is Ian Ringenberg. I speak in support of Article 8. I began working at the University of Minnesota in 2013 as an academic advisor. This job is what brought me to the state I now call home. While I've been grateful to work with exceptional students and dedicated instructors for the past 11 years, I found much that I wish to change about working conditions on campus. From staff working second jobs to supplement low salaries to insecure annual contracts that give employees no protection from unscrupulous supervisors. Seeking to improve the situation, in 2015, I found a group of other staff and faculty on campus who were organizing to address these and other concerns. We signed union cards with SEIU Local 284 and talked with our coworkers to do the same. And that's when I first had to learn about PELRA. You see, I'm a Unit 11 P&A employee, meaning under the current law, I can't organize only with workers doing similar administrative, counseling, and instructional work with students. But instead, I have to organize with over 6,500 staff in comically different jobs spread out across 5 campuses. Under the current system, I'm categorized as a P&A employee with Athletic Director Mark Coyle, but not with an entry-level advisor who may do nearly identical work to me. Had we been employed anywhere else, I believe we would have won our union. But because we work at the University of Minnesota, PELRA blocked our path to collectively bargain. Since its creation in 1980, P&A positions have grown from 6% of the university staff to over a quarter of all staff. And I should know, I served as chair of the P&A Staff Senate from 2018 to 2019. Article 8 addresses the absurdity of an employment group that has acted for 40 years as a catch-all for positions as diverse as IT professionals, optometrists, accountants, and athletic coaches. It allows all UMN employees the opportunity to unionize with those in similar jobs, or not if they choose not to collectively bargain. I encourage your support.
Thank you so much for your testimony. And lastly, we have Shay Horning. Welcome to the committee. Please state your name and title for the record and go ahead with your testimony.
Chair, members of the committee, my name is Shay Horning and I'm the State Government Affairs Coordinator for the Undergraduate Student Government at the University of Minnesota. I'm here today to speak in support of Article 8, which would provide UMN workers with the same rights as other public employees. Aside from my position at USG, I am also a work-study recipient and was a student worker prior to taking on my current position in student government. PELRA loopholes place immense barriers in our ability to advocate for ourselves as students. Specifically, PELRA bars students from collective action if they are eligible for work study, which hurts students who already face financial barriers. If a wealthy student can join a union, a student who needs financial aid should be able to do so as well. Students instead have to turn to institutions like USG, who managed to increase student wages to $15 an hour in 2022, a fight that took over a decade and is still less than minimum wage in Minneapolis. While USG's purpose is to advocate on the behalf of students, student workers should be allowed to advocate for themselves. Other post-secondary institutions have already acknowledged that students deserve to be treated the same as other workers, most notably at McAllister right here in St. Paul. The changes this bill would implement aren't radical. They simply affirm that student workers at the University of Minnesota won't be left behind as an increasing number of higher education institutions acknowledge that their students shouldn't be treated any differently. The bottom line is that student workers are still workers whose right to unionize shouldn't depend on how much their parents made last year. Their status as a UMN employee should not bar them from enjoying the same rights as other public workers. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. Members, any questions or discussion? Senator Dornick.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Senator McEwen, for the bill and your hard work and your passion. We know that you are passionate, and so thank you. It's been a good year again, and thanks to you and the colleagues and for the good discussions. And so appreciate the bill. There's a lot of good stuff in it. Thank you. I did have a amendment, the A10 amendment, Mr. Chair. I'd like to offer that.
Senator Dornick offers the A10 amendment. As that's getting passed around, if you want to.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So this is an agriculture exemption for the Earn Second Safe, and agriculture is so important in Minnesota. $112 billion of annual impact that agriculture produces, $17 billion of annual agriculture sales. And sugar beets are #1 in the nation. Turkey is #1. Producers, pork is #2, corn #3, and soybeans #3. So what this does is it's just a small carve out, and I'll just read: an individual employed by a farmer, family farm, or a family farm corporation to provide physical labor or management of a farm if the farm, family farm, or family farm corporation employs 5 or fewer employees. And then also it's got a 28 days or less. So we did in the Earn Second Safe, we carved out a hospitality exemption, and for this, just for agriculture, just a small carve out. So, Mr. Chair, I asked for a roll call.
Thank you, Senator Dornick. A roll call has been requested. A roll call granted. Any discussion? Granted. Thank you. Yes, granted. I'm sorry, Senator McEwen.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Senator Dornick, for the discussion and bringing this A10 amendment. I do understand where this is coming from, and I have had some discussions around concerns, in particular in regard to the sugar beet harvest and some of the situations that people are dealing with and how that interacts with the Earn Second Safe time. So I'm sympathetic to that. I also, though, don't feel that a person's status in the employment that they're involved in should dictate whether or not that they should be entitled to this very basic benefit of Earn Sick and Safe time. So at this point, I'll be opposing the amendment, the addition of this amendment. That's that I do understand where it's coming from, and I will look forward to the continued discussion as we move into conference. So if this is added, then we'll work with that. But at this time, I will be opposing the amendment, and I would ask respectfully that be acknowledged. Thank you.
Okay, other discussion? Senator Kupek?
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Senator Dornick, and also Senator McEwen. When I am fully in support of Earn Sick and Safe time, I think it's something that we need to afford all workers. And I know that when we passed Earn Sick and Safe time, I think the real goal was to capture those workers that had nothing. There's about 20% of Minnesotans that work and don't have that benefit. And when they're sick, we don't want you to go to work when you're sick. When you need to take a few hours off to pick up your kid at school because something happened, daycare closed early, we want you to have that benefit. In terms of, as Senator Dornick was saying, some of these people that are working particularly around that harvest, that is not the group of people that we were really trying to capture with Earn Sick and Safe time. Those are people working a really short amount of time, looking to make some extra money, some good extra money, I might add, and that's really not putting that extra kind of like paperwork thing upon them or trying to calculate that when that's really not the ones we're going for. I don't think is necessary. So I'm going to support Senator Dornick's amendment.
Any other discussion? Okay, seeing none, we'll do a roll call.
Chair McEwen.
No.
Vice Chair Housechild.
Yes.
Senator Dornick.
Yes.
Senator Grunhagen.
Yes.
Senator Kupek.
Yes.
Senator Liskey.
Yes.
Senator Marty. Senator Umu Verbetten.
No.
Senator Pappas. Senator Wiesenberg.
Yes.
Senator Pappas.
With 6 yes, 3 no, the amendment passes. Other discussion? Senator Dornick.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have one other amendment, the A9.
Senator Dornick introduces the A9 amendment. Senator Dornick, to your amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This amendment will be on page 46, deleting section 1, which is the mandate for single-family homes, townhomes, and townhouses to provide on-site parking for EV capable spaces. And so this is just with the price of housing and we wanting affordable housing, we just continue to add cost to housing. So, and building a house is such a great opportunity for a couple as they're picking and choosing all their things that they're going to have and what they're not going to have. And electric cars are here, and they will continue to get a bigger and bigger market. But I believe in the marketplace and where they want them, they will put them in. So I trust the homeowner and the builders to be able to put in there what they want and not having the state tell them what they have to do. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Sorry. I asked for a roll call too.
Roll call requested, roll call granted. Any discussion on the amendment? Senator McEwen.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you again for the discussion, Senator Dornick. I oppose, obviously, the A9 amendment, which would delete a section of the bill that I think is really important, actually. This is something that many people, I think, throughout our state are looking at right now and lamenting that the cost for them to have to install the kind of connection into their house for an EV is just prohibitive. And this is coming. It is going to come. We can resist it and resist it and resist it, but this is the way things are going. So I think that having a provision that really just sets out some bare minimums about what's expected so that homeowners, and I agree, it's a wonderful thing to be able to own a home and have a home, but they have options if they decide they want to have an EV. It's not going to just be out of the realm of possibility financially for them. So members, I will be opposing the adoption of this amendment, but thank you for the discussion.
Any other discussion? Senator Kubek.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm going to tell I struggle with this one a little bit. Certainly, and I know, having talked to Senator Mitchell, I know why she's bringing this forward. And certainly, as a meteorologist, I understand climate change and I understand electric vehicles are coming. I'm not quite sure they're going to come at maybe the pace we even want them to come or how fast. That development is still behind. And I think particularly when you move out into greater Minnesota where distances are longer and the battery capacity on, at least on the lower end vehicles, the ones that might actually fall into the quote unquote affordable range are not quite there yet. I don't know that they're quite, we're quite there yet on that, and I'm not sure if we're quite ready to put this into a building code that we, or something that has to go into all new buildings. And also, always in my community, keeping in mind, we have higher building standards in Minnesota that I'm very proud of, and I don't want to go back on those, but it's always that balance of my neighbor to the west and making sure that our community stays somewhat competitive. So I will support Senator Dornick's amendment on this.
Any other discussion? Okay, seeing none, we'll do a roll call.
Chair McEwen.
No.
Vice Chair Housechild.
Yes.
Senator Dornick. Yes. Senator Grunhagen.
Yes.
Senator Kupek.
Yes.
Senator Liskey.
Yes.
Senator Marty.
No.
Senator Verbaeten.
No.
Senator Pappas.
No.
Senator Wiesenberg.
Yes.
With 6 yes, 4 no, the amendment passes. Members, other discussion? Senator Liskey.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, I'd like to present the A15 amendment.
Senator Liskey introduced the A15 amendment. Senator Liskey, to your amendment.
Thank Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, this amendment is a change in the language. From my understanding, listening to a lot of people testify, it talks about the University of Minnesota being the main area of issue. In fact, I have a letter here from the Minnesota State system stating that they would have issues with these changes, and so I am offering the amendment to change it so that we focus on the University of Minnesota, since they generally are the ones with the issue.
Thank you, Senator Liskey. Any discussion? Folks are just kind of getting the amendment here, so. Senator McEwen.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Senator Liskey, for the A15. I'm going to oppose it at this point. I believe very strongly that everyone, including student workers, regardless of which institution they are working at, deserve the same rights as everybody else to collectively bargain if they choose to do that. And I think it would be particularly unfair if we do these good amendments and changes that have been long needed at the University of Minnesota, but then leave out these students who also deserve the same rights as the students at the U. So that said, Senator Liskey, I am very open as we move to conference to continue discussion. If there's changes, perhaps that would just not completely take those students' rights away. And Minsky was looking for some technical changes or something that would make this easier. I invite them to come and talk with us. Happy to entertain language changes as we move forward. But this, I feel, goes too far. So respectfully, I'm going to ask for a no vote on it. Thank you.
Senator Liskey.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, Senator McEwen, I guess the thing that I'm most concerned about is a lot of times these student workers, especially the ones that are on work-study programs. I myself was on work-study. I worked as a student worker out in Colorado. A lot of times these are jobs that are found for us because we were assigned a certain amount of money that we were allowed to get for student aid purposes, right? So it's through the federal government that assigns. I think I ended up getting about $3,000 that I could earn. That was my maximum amount that I could earn through my work-study program. And so if I had had a collective bargaining agreement, now I'm paying out a portion of that to the union that I'm trying to be represented by. I'm actually going to end up losing some of that $3,000 that I would have been able and allowed to earn because it would be part of the union. And so my concern would be that we're now taking FAFSA dollars that were approved by the federal government and we're applying them into a union type situation. And I'm not sure how that would shake out. So maybe you have a testifier that can answer why that is maybe true or not true, but I'm curious as to how that would shake out.
Did you hear the question? Sure. We can. Can somebody speak to that? Mr. Chair, I do have somebody, one of our former testifiers who can perhaps speak to that. Okay. Okay. And we have somebody from Minnesota State who would like to speak to it as well. And I also have a question for Senator Liskey in regard to the amendment when we're done addressing this. Thank you.
Please state your name again for the record and go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Senator Liskey. Ian Ringenberg. Just in response to your comment, so my office at the University of Minnesota, I suspect like many at Minnesota State, employs students both in work-study and not in work-study capacity. And really the difference that we're talking about is not in the character of the job, but simply the student's financial aid status. And so we currently have a situation in which some students have the ability to collectively bargain, some do not, and that may even change year to year depending on the family families FAFSA situation. I would also like to note that as employees of a public organization, my understanding is that there would be no mandatory deductions for the union from the Janus decision. So we are not in a situation where any student is going to lose wages due to their membership in a union. That would be totally voluntary on their part. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, and we have a new person here, so if you could state your name and title for the record and go ahead with your
Mr. Chair,
response.
my name is Christopher Dale. I'm the Senior System Director for Labor Relations from the Minnesota State Colleges and Universities, and I can confirm the fact that under PELRA, employees are not obligated to pay a fee to the union. The fair share fee was eliminated by the Janus decision. Employees who choose to join the union will have to pay a fee. It is uncertain. And I'm not an expert in the area of student financial aid from the federal government, so it's uncertain what the relationship is to those regulations that control that with respect to PELRA's obligations for the employer to deduct that from the pay if the student elects to support the union. And it's also the unions have the ability under PELRA now to dictate to us whether we'll make those deductions or not and when they stop. And so there may be areas of uncertainty with respect to that.
Thank you. I believe Senator McEwen maybe had a question in response unless, okay, Senator McEwen.
Thank you. I appreciate that discussion. I just, here, I'm looking at the A15. There was a question I had about the language. I'm wondering about the meaning, Senator Liskey, of the established in the Twin Cities metropolitan area. The amendments apply only to the University of Minnesota established in the Twin Cities metropolitan area and not to Minskew.
Senator McEwen, I might
Yeah.
go to council's
Thank
office to
you.
help draft the amendment.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chair and Senator McEwen, so I was trying to clarify that this would only be for the University of Minnesota Twin Cities campus, but that might not be what the intention was from Senator Liskey. It might be University of Minnesota excluding Minskew. So perhaps we could just delete on line 1.7, established in the Twin Cities metropolitan area, so that it would eliminate only the revisor instruction for only for that. So I don't know if that's would want to be incorporated by Senator Liskey then.
So Senator Liskey,
Thank you,
your
Mr.
thoughts
Chair.
on the amendment?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, I think Senate Council's answered quite clearly kind of what I guess the goal was, is I was trying to take Minskew out of the discussion. And so that's what I was aiming for. I think that just kind of got a little too much there word-wise. So hopefully that helps answer that part. I have a feeling that it doesn't matter how we word that amendment, so the position is probably the same. I just wanted to kind of get to that.
Senator McEwen.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Senator Liskey. That is correct, that I will still oppose the ban, but I ask specifically because, as I said, I am open to discussion as we move forward, and so I invite Minskew to come speak with myself and the coalition about languages as we move forward. Thank you.
Okay, any other discussion about the amendment? Senator Liskey?
I guess I had one last comment to make is we do have a letter here on our desks that does come from Minskew talking about this, so it'd be something that to look into. And I guess it sounds like the ambiguity is still there on the question of how the FAFSA money, how the student loan, basically a student loan money would be used. And so as a student myself with a significant amount of student loan debt, I would be concerned that we are now sending student loan money or student earned money into a union, and they may not understand that that's money they're going to end up owing back, or that they're going to have to take out of their college tuition funding that they've already got. So,
Senator McEwen.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I appreciate that concern, and we'll take that into consideration and talk about it. I think that one of the things that came up when this bill was heard in the House, what I think is really adept, is just the importance of having these student workers as part of being able to bargain if they so choose. So students who are receiving pay because of their work-study status should also still have the same rights to collectively bargain. So I certainly wouldn't be in favor of the legislature sort of saying, well, this is a little too complicated, we think, so we're not going to let you and your employer and your union figure out the logistics here. We just think it's too much. I'm not comfortable with that. But as I said, as we're going forward, I'm happy to entertain discussion about language and see if there's clarification that we can talk about.
Senator Wiesenberg.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I was just wondering if there's anyone from the Minnesota State colleges and universities in the room that like to talk about their letter that they wrote, why they don't want this. Thank you.
Welcome back. Please state your name and title for the record and go ahead with your answer.
Chair McEwen, it's Christopher Dale, Senior System Director for Labor Relations with the Minnesota State Colleges and Universities. Senator Wiesenberg, Minnesota State articulated a number of concern areas, and we didn't actually firmly say we would oppose this, but there are a number of concerns related to the type of work, as Senator Liskey has pointed out, that student workers typically engage in who are on work study, and that is primarily a program designed to provide financial aid to those students who need it. And the work that they do is primarily designed around that primary purpose, so that it has not typically followed the normal work allocation process that you would have with a regular public employee. And in Minnesota State's case, it's somewhat different than the University of Minnesota because, first, the sheer number of the student workers we're talking about, we have 9,700 student workers across the system. We anticipate 60% of them would be assigned to a bargaining unit. Those bargaining units with Minnesota State already exist. They are statewide units because our employees are in statewide units. These are statewide units that are created by 179A.10 subdivision 2. There are, I believe, 17 units there. 16 of them have identified exclusive representatives. So these student workers from Minnesota State will be assigned to existing bargaining units, uncertain whether the existing classification system is prepared to accommodate them. It isn't about depriving students per se of the opportunity to negotiate. It's about the process of creating structures that can accommodate them. We anticipate a fair amount of administrative burden to go along with the potentially something slightly south of 6,000 new students assigned to bargaining units.
Senator Wiesenberg.
Thank you.
Okay, any other discussion on this amendment?
Mr. Chair, if the chair would entertain it just very briefly, I have an expert who has been working with the coalition on this bill who can perhaps speak to this amendment that I'd like to be heard as well.
Ms. Lugar-Nicolai, go ahead and state your name for the record and your title and go ahead with your answer.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. My name is Meg Lugar-Nicolai. I'm an attorney with Education Minnesota. We work in partnership with the AAUP and are grateful to work with Senator McEwen as well. In response to the concern about students' eligibility for financial aid or the appropriate distribution or disposition of their financial aid, there was research on this prior to the introduction of the language. We do not believe, based on federal regulations and the federal law for federal financial aid, that there would be any impact. It really ultimately would be like any other, for example, when I was a college student, could have a deduction for IMPERG or other groups. That wasn't my goodness, that was a triple negative, I think. That wasn't impermissible. And so we don't think that this would have an impact on receipt of or eligibility for financial aid, based on our research.
Thank you for your response. Any other discussion on the amendment? Okay, seeing none, those in favor of the A15 amendment, say aye. Oppose, nay? Nay.
Nay.
The motion does not pass. Further discussion? Senator Gruenhagen.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, I have the A5 amendment.
Senator Gruenhagen introduces the A5 amendment. As that's getting passed around, Senator Gruenhagen, to your amendment.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, this, I got one technical change. It currently says on line 1.5, $20 million. I'd like to change that to 0.
Thank you.
Okay?
Got it. Yep, thank you, Senator Gruenhagen.
All right. The reason I changed it to 0 is because, well, we passed an amendment already that had 0 appropriation, Senator Dibble's bill. And this is more of a placeholder in your bill, Senator McEwen, that, you know, we passed a lot of mandates onto our local public schools. And this would allow some additional funding to the Department of Education to give grants to school districts who have to implement the earned and safe sick time requirement under the Minnesota statute we passed. I've had input from my local public schools, and, you know, we did give them historic funding, but we also gave them historic mandates, and the result is that the mandate cost outweighs the funding that we gave them. So many school districts, including mine and my district, are hurting financially, and of course they're faced with cuts and to programs that are helping students. So what this mandate does, or this amendment, I'm sorry, does, it puts a placeholder in there that can be responded to based on what fiscal report that you get to help out the Minnesota Department of Education so that they could give grants to school districts to help them deal with the additional cost of earned sick and safe time. So members, I'd ask for a yes vote on this.
Thank you, Senator Gruenhagen. Any discussion? Senator Wiesenberg.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd actually, if we could make an oral amendment where it says 20 million to say blank, right? Is that what you're trying to do? Right.
That's what I did. I said 0. I should have said blank, I guess.
So, yeah, that should say blank rather than 20 million. So $sign ... Yeah, all right, thank you.
Okay. So Senator Wiesenberg offers an oral amendment to do a blank appropriation. Those in favor of the, Mr. Olson?
Oh, I just wanted, Mr. Chair, Senator Gruenhagen, I just wanted to clarify that on line, page 1, line 4, strike 20 million and insert blank. And then also on page 1, line 5, strike 20 million and insert blank would be the oral amendment.
That'd be the core.
Thank you.
Yeah, Mr. Chair.
Senator Gruenhagen?
I see that as a friendly amendment.
Okay.
To my amendment.
Those in favor of the friendly amendment, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Nay. The friendly amendment passes. Any other discussion on the amendment? To the A5 as amended, Senator McEwen.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you for the discussion, Senator Gruenhagen. My instinct is that we didn't have any testimony in regard to this issue in relation to earned sick and safe time. I'm sort of uncomfortable putting a placeholder here, and I also take issue with this, with earned sick and safe time, the idea of it being a mandate. These are rights that we want to make sure that are honored for all working people in Minnesota. And you noted the historic funding that was given, and there was historic legislation that passed last year, including earned sick and safe time. But I don't feel that this is maybe the appropriate place to put something like that. But I would be interested in hearing what the earned sick and safe time lead author, Senator Pappas, who is here with us, has to say about this amendment, and would follow her lead on that as well. So,
Senator Pappas.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Senator Gruenhagen. I do believe that all of our school districts already provide some kind of sick pay and earned sick and safe time. So I have not heard from the School Board Association or anyone that the it's a problem for them to implement. So I don't really think it's necessary.
Further discussion, Senator Gruenhagen?
Oh, thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, having been on the school board and chief negotiator for 6 years with certified staff and other organizations, this is just the problem with this bill. And one of the reasons I bring this amendment, these are benefits that should be negotiated at the local level between an employer and employee, like a school district, or even a business. And here the state comes in with a sledgehammer that, according to the input I had, in fact, when we passed this provision, I had 6 superintendents call me out onto the outside the Senate floor and say, don't pass all these mandates on us. And 4 of them were from my district, 2 were from outside the district, but they were all rural school districts. And so that's one of the reasons I decided to bring this amendment, is it just, I've given this example several times. We need the state to be a referee, like in a football game. But what we're doing here, we're inserting the referee into the huddle, calling the plays. That's what we're doing, okay? And that's not the place for the state government. The place is to provide a level playing field and allow the private sector and even the public school to decide which benefits they want to offer based on, negotiations. And I've been in negotiations for months at a time before we came to an agreement, never had a strike. And it worked out good for both sides. But again, here's a one-size-fits-all, boom, we're going to force you to do this whether you like it or not. And I just think when the state does that, it has negative repercussions, whether it's in the private sector or schools or whatever. So, members, I would ask for a roll call and ask you to vote yes.
Well, Senator Gruenhagen, we could certainly get rid of any sort of labor laws for our schools. We could have the teachers negotiate weekends. We could have the teachers negotiate whether there's safe workplace. We could have them negotiate whether children can teach fellow children and labor laws. We are doing these things because we want to make sure that every worker has the same rights to earn sick and safe time. Teachers should be a part of that, just like a worker at Dairy Queen, just like a worker that works for the city, just like any other worker. So expecting our teachers to accept different rights than other workers, I don't think makes a lot of sense in this regard. And by your logic, we could just go back, wipe out all the labor laws, and have all the teachers individually negotiate what labor rights they have. And I don't think that's a direction that we want to go in. So I also oppose this amendment. And I think we just need to think about those kinds of things when we're talking about the rights of our teachers. I believe Senator Wiesenberger Liskey was next, but Senator Gruenhagen, we can go to you as well. Senator Liskey.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, Senator McEwen, I honestly have a lot of school districts that have come to me about the earned safe and sick time, and I think it's not, I think the word mandate is a bit harsh. I think you're probably more correct. I would define it more as a benefit. Yes, we are mandating that they offer a benefit and a right to workers. So mandate used in that way may be a little bit better than what we've heard so far, but I think leaving it as a blank appropriation would be important in the fact that we offer the school districts some reprieve. Some of the things that we've offered from the legislation like you talked about from last year, it's a little bit expensive on the school districts, and that's something that a lot of my school districts have come to me talking about. It's not that they were opposed to any of the legislation. They were concerned that they didn't have the funding for the legislation. And so this would leave open-ended options and maybe even a discussion of why they need more money and why they need more support. And so I think everybody in this room is likely in support of finding more funding for education and the education system. So I think that's more of where this is trying to go, maybe a little bit better worded in that way. And so, and definitely not stepping back to renegotiate anything like Senator Hauschild said. I'd be very concerned if we started renegotiating the entire existence of labor laws. That would be a pretty scary committee to deal with. So with that being said, I think I'm in support of the amendment as it's been amended because it's something that our school districts, at least in my district, have definitely come to. And so it's something that I feel like they need to know that we hear them and that we know that there's a problem and that they're having a hard time affording all these things. So I appreciate it. Thank you.
And I just want to say roll call, requested roll call granted. Senator Gruenhagen.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, did you make a motion to eliminate all labor laws where it put the state inside the huddle? I'll second that motion.
I bet you would, Senator Gruenhagen.
No, really the difference what we're talking about here is the wisdom of local control versus the state one size fits all. I come down on the side of local control. I've been in the situations in the school district. I was a school board member for 16 years. The teachers and administration and the school board can come to reasonable conclusions as far as the benefits that they provide. And the state doesn't have to assume that they're going to make irrational decisions. I have yet to see one, either in my district or in the neighboring districts of our conference. So, I just have to disagree with that idea of putting the government in the huddle calling the plays. And that's not a good thing. I don't think any of us would go to a football game where the ref went in the huddle and called the plays versus just trying to make sure it was being played equally. And that's really the difference on these labor laws. When we put the government inside the huddle calling the plays, one size fits all, that has negative ramifications, and we're seeing that in our local school districts. So, members, I'd appreciate a yes vote on this.
Senator McEwen, any final thoughts? Okay, with that, we'll go to a roll call.
Chair McEwen.
No.
Vice Chair Hauschildt.
No.
Senator Dornick.
Yes.
Senator Gruenhagen.
Yes.
Senator Kupek.
No.
Senator Liskey.
Yes.
Senator Marty. Senator Verbaeten.
No.
Senator Pappas.
No.
Senator Wiesenberg.
Yes.
With 4 yes, 6 no, the amendment does not pass. Other discussion, Senator McEwen.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have the A12 amendment that I'd like to offer.
Senator McEwen is introducing the A12 amendment. So it looks like, or it sounds like the A12 amendment is in the packet. Senator McEwen, to your amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This amendment has to do with a broadband bill and it contains some portions of the broadband bill that are directly related to the Department of Labor and Industry and Safety. So I'd like that there's a lot of agreement on this portion of the bill, and I would like to see it included in our labor finance omnibus, and we may see some even more peace in the valley as we move forward, but this is where I'd like to start with that to make sure that that portion is included.
And Senator McEwen, did you have an oral amendment to the amendment for a change? Or perhaps you'd like me to do that?
If you would, Mr. Chair.
So I would like to do an oral amendment that on line 1.30 of the A12 amendment, we strike the word develop and insert the word approve.
That's agreeable.
Senator McEwen, thoughts on the oral amendment?
I have no objection to that.
So those in favor of the, or any discussion on the oral amendment? Senator, okay. Senator Dornick.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I had a few questions, unless you want to pass it first and then go to it, or what?
So we'll pass the oral amendment and then perhaps we can go to your question.
Okay.
Those in favor of the oral amendment, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, say nay. Okay, the oral amendment passes. Senator Dornick, to your question.
Just a few questions on the amendment. So the first question would be, I see no activating date. When would this be put into force or into law? When would it start? Senator McEwen.
Ms. Doyle-Fontaine.
Mr. Chair, members, so since this is part of a finance or finance bill, it would be July 1, effective date.
Senator Dornick.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Senator McEwen, so I see they got to do a 40-hour course and hands-on and different things. I'm trying to read through if Dolly is Dolly doing this? So if they are, Commissioner Labor, are they ready to, for this to go? Can they get that up and going that quick? I don't know if there's somebody from Department of Dolly would like to speak to that.
Welcome to the committee. If you could state your name and title for the record and answer the question if you're able.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for the question. So Adam Hutchins, Lyuna, Minnesota. We're currently working with Dolly to make sure that they feel they have the appropriate time to implement, so the date will change to reflect their proposed timeline.
Mr. Chair.
Senator Dornick.
So you're saying it's fluid then, the date?
Go ahead.
Well, currently, under our expectation would be July 1st, 25, but we're still hoping to make sure that DLI is still comfortable with that date.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate that.
Now, I'll just add.
Senator McEwen.
Thank you, Senator Dornick, for the questions. And I'm, as we move forward, I'm of course happy to entertain any language changes that we want to explore.
Senator Dornick.
Senator McEwen, I was just wondering, I know this was mentioned, it's in broadband. Is this going to go to the Agriculture Committee then, being this is, you had mentioned broadband, and then is the chair aware of this amendment? Sorry, Mr. Chair.
Yeah, Senator
The Chair of Agriculture.
Senator McEwen.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Senator Dornick, for the question. Yes, we have been in extensive conversations with the chair of the Agriculture and Broadband Committee, and he is aware, and discussions are continuing as we move forward.
Senator Dornick.
Mr. Chair, so with that, does that mean, does he want to hear the bill? Or I'm not sure exactly what. So you're just ongoing conversation, but nothing is for sure yet.
Senator McEwen.
That's, in a manner of speaking, Senator, yes, the discussions are ongoing, and we are committed to making sure that the chair of Agriculture and Broadband is okay is what we're doing going forward. Whether that means that they need to have a hearing or not remains to be decided.
Okay, thank you, Senator.
Senator Liskey.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Senator McEwen, I know that we have, you say we have some peace in the valley, and I believe in the audience we might have somebody that might be able to speak to this. I think Melissa Wolf might be in the audience. If she could come up to the testifier table and I could ask her a couple questions.
Welcome, Ms. Wolf. If you could state your full name for the record and title and go ahead with your response.
Yep. Thank you, Mr. Chair and members. My name is Melissa Wolf. I'm the Executive Director of the Minnesota Cable Communications Association.
Senator Liskey.
Mr. Chair, I guess the questions I have are revolving around this language. I know it's been heard in in our committee, I think briefly, and then it's been heard over, or was supposed to get a hearing in AG. I don't know if it's been heard. And we have, Senator McEwen has said that we've found some peace in the valley. Is this language something that the cable providers have agreed to, or where are we at on that?
Ms. Wolf.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and Senator. We did have stakeholder meetings last week that included the entire industry and proponents and opponents of the bill. There was no agreed upon language that came out of that committee, and today MCCA is opposed to the A12 amendment, excuse me.
Senator Liskey.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, so Senator McEwen, I guess my concern is that it doesn't sound like a whole lot of peace in the valley has been found. I'm quite concerned that we've kind of heard this before, but it looks like different language than maybe what we've heard. Maybe Senate Council can answer that. Maybe it's not. If nothing's changed and we didn't have peace previously, I guess I don't see how this is the stuff we've agreed upon. So I guess I'm trying to figure that out.
So just to confirm, the council is saying that we did hear this bill, yeah. And I'm sorry, was it to Senator McEwen or Ms. Wolf?
Yeah, so it was to Senator McEwen was because I was confused because she said that there's peace in the valley on some of this language, and it doesn't sound like there is. So I guess how did we get to that point?
Senator McEwen.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, Senator Liskey, for the question. I said there is some peace in the valley. We may not be able to make everybody perfectly happy with the outcome of this bill, but we are doing our best. And I understand that there may be a group or two who are still unhappy with where things stand. We will continue those discussions with them. And as I said, we are committed to getting to a place where we can get as many stakeholders on board as possible and to have their concerns addressed. And I am committed to that going forward.
Senator Liskey.
Mr. Chair, thank you. I can understand that, but it sounds like they're a pretty big player in this stakeholders realm that have heartburn about this amendment specifically. And my concern, just reading through it, is we run the risk of increasing the cost of broadband. We run the increase, costs could go up pretty significantly with this specific amendment. Are we not concerned about that I've heard Senator Housechild in committee before. I listened to a lot of his bills while I was in Ag because I spent a lot of time over there, and they're great bills that we were listening to, and he's fighting hard to see the costs come down. We're trying to basically give it as a human right. I mean, we need access to information, and broadband is that. But if we do this, I'm worried that we're now increasing the cost of those things. So I guess that's my final reason as to why I'm opposed to this amendment. Thank you.
Thanks, Senator Liskey, and I just want to respond with what you brought up. So the bill that I brought before the Ag Committee, just to be abundantly clear, was to increase state aid to local communities for broadband projects. So on a technicality, I wasn't technically introducing a bill to reduce the costs. I was providing more state money so it was lower cost for the local community. With that said, I support local labor being involved in the process and making sure we're paying the workers the right wages that they deserve for these projects. So just a little bit of a distinction.
Yeah.
Did somebody else over here have it? Senator Grunhagen?
Oh, thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, there's part of this amendment I like and part of it I don't really care for, okay? But it illustrates my concern about legislation up here. Like, for instance, when we look at the A12, line 1.17, it talks about installation requirements, being 10 feet from existing underground utilities or the crosses said utilities. I can understand that. That's being a referee outside the huddle, okay? And we need to set those types of things, okay? But then when I flip the amendment over, it says complete 40 hours of initial course, includes classroom hands-on instruction. Do we have any data that this type of a mandate will actually increase safety? Or number two, has there been a lot of safety problems the way it's operating currently? Or are we just coming up with something to mandate onto the broadband that's going to drive up cost, promote some delays in terms of hiring and implementing, and not trusting the companies? Now, again, if we have a consistent pattern of safety problems, I can understand passing something. But when I read this, it just puts the referee into the huddle again, okay, calling the plays. And I don't know if there's data to support all this. That's the problem. But it just sounds good, so we're going to pass it. If I'm incorrect, Senator McEwen, appreciate any response you have.
Senator McEwen.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And Senator Grunhagen, we did take testimony on the point when we heard this bill in committee, specifically to the point of safety and some of the problems that people have seen throughout the state in terms of workers not having the training that they need to be able to carry out this work safely, and the real concerns about both worker safety and public safety. So I won't rehash that, but if you, I can put you in touch with the people who brought that testimony before the committee earlier. I do think it's a real issue and deserves our care.
Senator Grunhagen.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chair. Thanks for your response, Senator McEwen. I guess, one of the things about the testimony up here at the Capitol is people aren't under oath, okay? And therefore, sometimes things get embellished slightly, to put it mildly. So, we obviously have agencies that take reports of safety incidences that happen. It'd be interesting to see what the incidences are in terms of safety versus just a testimony. Again, the world's not perfect. There are going to be some problems. But, you know, what's the justification for 40 hours? Is there other data that shows that's going to reduce any safety incidences? Or is it just, well, we just think 40 hours is a good idea? And again, this amendment illustrates my 2 points. There's part of it I like, but then there's part of it that I have a lot of questions about. And I think all of us as legislators, regardless of what party or political position we have, need to do a better job of vetting the data or the mandates that come down on these businesses that are going to ultimately drive up cost and increase the cost of a particular project. If Senator McEwen has any response, appreciate it.
Okay, other discussion? Senator Dornick?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So this one doesn't sound like it's quite ready, and I'm not sure why we're in this committee doing the walkthrough and the vote the same day. And so with the amount of amendments that we have had and the different materials trying to get up to speed, I'm not, and then it seems like this one still needs a little bit more work with the agriculture chair and some of the other stakeholders. So if we're going to try to move this forward, I have to not support it, and I ask for a roll call.
Roll call requested, roll call granted. Any other discussion? Okay, Senator McEwen, did you have any final thoughts? Okay, with that, we will go to a roll call.
Chair McEwen.
Yes.
Vice Chair Housechild.
Yes.
Senator Dornick.
No.
Senator Grunhagen.
No.
Senator Kupek.
Yes.
Senator Liskey.
No.
Senator Marty. Senator Verbaeten.
Yes.
Senator Pappas.
Yes.
Senator Wiesenberg.
No.
With 6 yes, 4 no, the amendment, the A12 amendment passes. Members, discussion.
Mr. Chair,
Senator McEwen.
I have an A3 amendment I'd like to add.
Senator McEwen introduces the A3 amendment. So it sounds like the A3 amendment is in the packet.
Yep.
Senator McEwen, to your amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Members, this amendment creates a placeholder for potential funding for the Rise Up Center, which we heard earlier in committee today, presented by Senator Dibble. As he noted, some discussions are ongoing, so the appropriation amount at this point is a blank. We'll continue to have those discussions as we move into conference. But that's the A3. I respectfully ask for your support. Move its adoption.
Okay, any further discussion? Okay, seeing none, will.
Mr. Chair.
Senator Liskey.
Mr. Chair, Senator McEwen, are we going to edit, can we orally amend this amendment to have the amendment that we agreed to earlier when we were talking about Senator Dibble's bill about the report?
One second, Senator Liskey. So Senator Liskey, you have an amendment to the amendment?
Yes, Mr. Chair. Since the author of the amendment is busy talking, I will offer the A14 amendment to the amendment.
Okay. So Senator Liskey introduces the A14 amendment to the A3 amendment? Okay.
That is correct.
So Senator Liskey, to your amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, I believe this is the report that Senator Grunhagen got added to the original bill. It's just the same exact language that we all agreed to. It was a friendly amendment then. I have a feeling this would be a friendly amendment here as well.
Senator McEwen.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Senator Liskey. And I haven't looked at this word by word or line for line, but on the representation that this is the same language that was offered and accepted earlier. And I would note that Senator Dibble did note that there might be a couple of date changes or things like that that we would look at, but seeing that all of that is understood, I also would accept this as a friendly amendment to the amendment. Thank you for bringing it.
Okay, Senator McEwen accepted as a friendly amendment. If there's no other discussion, those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. The A14 amendment to the A3 amendment passes. Back to the A3 amendment as amended, those other discussion. Okay, seeing none. Senator McEwen, did you have any final thoughts?
Just to respectfully ask for your support.
Okay. Senator Dornick?
Sorry, I was distracted just a little bit. Where are we at? What are we?
We are back on, so we are back on the A3 amendment as amended by the A14th amendment.
All right. So I just wanted to ask about, this is kind of out of the ordinary, and just, Senator McEwen, if you could give us a little bit more background on how this came about, and as far as capital investment, normally it's in that committee, and then why it's not maybe in jobs, but it's in labor. And so just a little background, a little bit more how it ended up here. Just in the last couple of days, I think it was posted, so.
Senator McEwen.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Senator Dornick. Just in discussion with Senator Dibble, that really being a strong advocate for this project and having some discussion with leadership, realizing that this perhaps could be a possibility that we could achieve this project this year. So wanting to make sure that we fit it in, and that we were happy to have this be part of what we do, because it is really a labor-oriented project. And so just was very happy to take a look at this and see if we could make it happen.
Okay. Seeing no other discussion, any other final thoughts, Senator McEwen? Those in favor of the A3 amendment as amended with the A14 amendment, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, nay. The amendment passes. Members, to the underlying omnibus bill, further discussion. Senator Wiesenberg.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to move the A17 amendment.
Senator Wiesenberg introduces the A17 amendment.
So just start talking about it.
As those are getting passed around, Senator Wiesenberg, to your amendment.
So we were just talking about the A15 amendment and University of Minnesota and Minnesota State Colleges and Universities. And I heard that the students don't have to be part of a union, but federal law states that they don't have to be part of a union. So I just thought we should have an amendment saying that it needs to be required that we tell them that. So my amendment would say, on or before the first day of employment, a student must be provided notification that membership in a collective bargaining unit is not required as a condition of employment with the public employer. That way the students know what their rights are.
Senator McEwen.
I just need a moment to look at it.
Yep.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I appreciate the time to just consult with the Bill's advocates on this as well. So, and thank you for the discussion and bringing this A17. I have to say that I oppose it, its adoption, and especially the reason is that it sort of infers that that people have some sort of misunderstanding that they would be required in any way to join, which they're not. So it sets up a sort of assumption that is false. And I don't like a piece of legislation or an amendment added to my legislation that would create sort of a false impression from the get-go as a baseline. So as we heard, the rule is, the law is that people in a public sector union, they aren't required to join a union. There is no forcing. People have a choice of whether or not they want to join. So I'm not comfortable with this language as it's set out or adding it to the bill, and I would respectfully ask members to vote no.
Senator Wiesenberg.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Is the representative from Minnesota State Colleges and Universities still here? Thank you. Thank you. So you may have misspoken, or maybe I wrote it down wrong, but I thought so what I wrote down is the students would be assigned a bargaining unit when they are going to be part of the Minnesota State Colleges and Universities, even through the FAFSA program. So you said they would be assigned a bargaining unit. So if they're going to be assigned a bargaining unit, we should let them know that they don't have to partake in that. Is that correct, or did you misspeak? I'm just curious. Thank you.
If you could state your name again and title for the record and go ahead with your response.
Chair McEwen, it's Christopher Dale, Senior System Director for Labor Relations for the Minnesota State Colleges and Universities. Senator Wiesenberg, what I had said was that under the proposed legislation, student workers who meet the other criteria to become public employees at Minnesota State will be assigned into a bargaining unit as an operation of PELRA. They are not required to join a union. The concept of being assigned to a bargaining unit and joining a union are two different things. The union is a voluntary organization, in effect, that represents the employees in the bargaining unit that have been assigned there.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I guess I've made the amendment to try to be clear to students who, you're 18 years old and you don't know what's going on. So if they're assigned to a bargaining unit, they might just think they're part of a union. So that's why I brought this amendment forward, so it's clear to the students that they don't have to be part of a union, right? Because it might not be clear to them. So it should be clear to them, because they might not know that. It should specifically say you do not have to be part of a union, because this is something that we don't teach in high school, right? They don't know that coming into college. So there should be specific language that says that. Thank you.
Other discussion? Roll call requested, roll call granted. Okay, seeing no other discussion, Senator McEwen, any final thoughts?
Just respectfully ask that we do not adopt this amendment. Thank you.
Okay, roll call.
Chair McEwen.
No.
Vice Chair Hochschild.
No.
Senator Dornick. Senator Grunhagen.
Yes.
Senator Kupek.
No.
Senator Liskey.
Yes.
Senator Marty.
No.
Senator Verbaeten.
No.
Senator Pappas.
No.
Senator Wiesenberg.
Yes.
With 6 noes and 4 yeses, the amendment does not pass. Discussion on the underlying bill. Senator Liskey.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, Senator McEwen, reading through your bill, I've got lots of questions because we have lots of blank appropriations, and that's very concerning to me. As a fiscal person myself, I like to make sure that we're going to stay within the budget, stay within what the marks are, what we're trying to find. So especially on like lines 5.11, 5.12, and on 5.16 and 5.17, we have a lot of blank appropriations, and I'd imagine we have a pretty good idea of what things should cost. Is there a reason that we're leaving things blank?
Senator McEwen.
Mr. Chair and Senator Liskey, I'm maybe perhaps our staff can help. I'm trying to look at which lines that you're looking at. I'm looking at the A2 and I'm not can we make sure that we're just looking at the same thing?
Senator Liskey.
Senator McEwen, it's on page 5, so Article 2, Section 1 is the title on the bottom of the page, and then it's line 5.11, 5.12, and then 5.16 and 5.17.
Senator McEwen, would you like fiscal to respond?
Sure, thank
Mr.
you.
Olson?
Mr. Chair, Senator Liskey, the fiscal note is still not completed for the underlying bill, Senate File 4597, relating to PELRA. So that's currently the estimated costs aren't known yet.
Okay, thank you.
If I may,
Senator
Mr. Chair, Senator Liskey, you said that there were a lot of blank appropriations. I take issue with that, but if you want to talk to me about them, you know my door's always open to talk about that. The ones that, what you have pointed out specifically here are appropriations where we have left a ... Specifically, those pertain to the PELRA bill and the students and the faculty and the people at the university who want just the bare minimum option right to be able to collectively bargain if they want to and join a union if they want to, which they can't right now. So fixing that, we are waiting for determination of what a cost might be for that, and then we're going to have just some discussion about what might be appropriate out of our labor and industry budget to allocate to assist those institutions with any additional costs that they may have. I will note that the universities, as we know, already have human rights or human relations departments with professionals. They already have unionized employees. They already deal with this extensively. But we'll be taking a look at that. We don't know the exact cost yet, but there may be a cost, and so we want to make sure that we're leaving that possibility open, that we might appropriate something to them to help them out. Thank you.
Senator Liskey.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, Senator McEwen, the other big one that I was concerned about is the one that we just made, right? So we had the amendment that we added, Senator Dibble's bill. It's got a $9 million cost to it, at least that's what we heard just a few, short hours, hour and a half ago. My concern is that our budget target is looking at $1 million, and if we're going to add a $9 million bill to a $1 million target, I'm not sure how we're going to make those targets. So maybe you can answer that.
Senator McEwen.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Senator Liskey, that's a great question. I think that, as we know, our target for the Labor Committee here in the Senate was $1 million, and we're very responsible with that budget and work very carefully to make sure that we meet all of the needs that come before the committee with the budget that we've been given. If we do go forward and have an allocation for the Rise Up Center, that will be made in discussion with leadership in both bodies and sort of in agreement of what is possible with the budget that we're working with. But obviously, some of that would be discussion that is not just me in our $1 million target.
Members, other discussion? Oh, Senator Liskey.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair and Senator McEwen, I think I heard fiscal referencing that we were going to be dual tracking this specific omnibus bill with misclassification. Let's just say, and now I don't think it will, but there's a possibility that misclassification or this don't pass. Is there concern that we wouldn't have the right numbers then by then? Because if misclassification failed to pass, we're taking fallout from that, saying that that is going to keep the number down. Is there a chance that that'll hurt the budget and the final budget here?
Senator McEwen.
No.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Any other? Senator Grunhagen.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, just a quick question for Senator McEwen. I'm on page 30 of the A2, lines 30.21 to 30.33. The way I read this, it says on page 31, it says this section is effective the day following final enactment, or I suppose when the governor signs it. Do you know what degree that, especially for small businesses, because my understanding is this applies even to part-time employees, correct me if I'm wrong, and down to one employee. To what degree is Dolly or the appropriate agency educating the private sector on these requirements? Are you familiar with that?
Senator McEwen?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Senator Grunhagen, we've heard a lot of testimony, and I think we're all very familiar with all of the work that the Department of Labor and Industry has done to work with employers very proactively throughout the state to make sure that they have the information that they need to implement earned sick and safe time. In fact, the provisions that we are carrying in this bill and in our policy bill reflect those discussions and all of that collaborative work that the department has done with employers throughout the state over this last year. So a lot of these changes, many of them are changes that we've reflect those discussions and the work that the department has done to try to make the policy better and as workable as possible and as seamless as possible in its implementation. So I think that we've gone over that a lot in this committee, and I think we all appreciate the work that Dolly does to make sure employers have the info that they need.
Senator Grunhagen?
Oh, thank you. Thank you for that response, Senator McEwen. It's just, you know, I'm on the committee here, so I'm familiar with this, but I mean, and I have a small insurance agency, but with a couple of part-time employees, along with 3 agents. But, you know, when I look at this, there doesn't seem to be much accommodation. I'm thinking of all the small businesses. I can't say as a business owner that I've received any correspondence from Dolly or any agency regarding this, other than the fact that I'm up here and I'm aware of what this is, you know, of the requirements. But we're talking about if you don't do this, on line 30.31, it says the employer is liable to the employee for an amount equal to 48 hours of earned sick and safe time for each earned sick and safe time that was not provided, plus an additional equal amount as liquidated damages. I mean, for a small business, I think we really need to have some accommodation here and a little bit of lead time on the education, since this is going down to, and correct me if I'm wrong, down to 1 employee or even 2 part-time employees. So I really, you know, I also read the letter from the Minnesota Chamber, and they had concerns. And by the way, I do want to make one compliment. I do appreciate you dropping Article 9. I had numerous emails from healthcare providers across the state regarding that, so appreciate your working with the stakeholders on that. So it's not all, you know, I'm not trying to be all negative. I'm trying to be positive where I can. But, you know, when I read these 2 paragraphs, and then you flip over to page 31, which evidently was passed last year, I mean, when you think of the average small employer of 2 or 3 employees having to accommodate this mandate with the sledgehammer of consequences held over them, I just, you know, again, it's the referee versus referee creating equal competition, or the referee in the huddle calling the play. So are you aware of what Dolly is doing? Again, I haven't seen anything other than being up here at the committee in terms of educating business owners, especially small business owners, especially when we have a date. This section is effective the day following final enactment. It doesn't sound like we're having a lot of lead time for businesses to get up to speed with this new mandate. If Senator McEwen has a response.
Mr. Chair, and Senator Grunhagen, I'm just gonna, I just want to note for all of our understanding that we are now past 3 o'clock, which is fine, but it is what it is, and if we need to go over, then that's okay, but we will have to adjourn here, and we will have to then come back and meet on Thursday night or Friday. So I just want to make sure everybody knows that that's the state that we're in right now. With that, I also have our commissioner has came up here, so can just give us a brief comment in response to Senator Grunhagen's question. But with that, I'll just make sure to turn it over to you, Mr. Chair.
Madam Commissioner, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and Senator. So the department has been doing outreach related to Earn Sick and Save Time since it passed about a year ago in many different forms. On the website, we've been out meeting with employers and employer organizations, also talking with employee organizations and advocates. But what I would just say about the provisions contained in this bill, these are much of the modifications to the Earn Sick and Save Time that are contained in this bill are things that we heard from employers and from employer organizations trying to address some of the challenges they've had in implementing Earn Sick and Save Time. So many of the things that are included are in direct response to that. And so we want those to go into effect as soon as possible in order to provide some of that support and in response to what we've heard in that feedback. But of course, as we do with any law that passes that's under our jurisdiction, we will immediately start educating and doing outreach and updating our website to reflect the new requirements, if there are any, in that bill.
Senator Grunhagen.
Oh, thanks for that response, Commissioner. And yeah, I would just follow up. You know, if you've never started a business from scratch, and I have, I started an independent agency that now is full-service agency from scratch, okay? That means you're chief cook and bottle washer. So, you know, to go to your website and learn about this or things like that, when you're up to your eyeballs in alligators and every other type of regulation and taxes that you got, so you run, you know, you're running 180. By the way, I didn't earn minimum wage for about 30 years, okay? And so, you know, I'm just thinking of these small business owners. And remember, you know, Microsoft, you can go right down the list, 3M, they all started as small businesses. And it just, the amount of hurdles that have to be done for a small business to get going with the state can be intolerable and discouraging. So, and when we look at Minnesota compared to our neighboring states, we're definitely making it difficult for small business owners to get started, stay started, and to stay in business. So I hope that you'll have some empathy here as we go along. If you found a small business owner that didn't comply for whatever reason, that we would have a little bit more empathy and work with people and give them a little bit of time to catch up and get accommodated to this. That's my comment. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Senator Dornick. Other discussion? Hey, excuse me, Senator Grunhagen, Senator Dornick.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Senator McEwen, we still have some more stuff, so just on courtesy, just to let you know that, so maybe we can come back Thursday or whenever it works.
Okay, very good. We'll schedule another hearing. Thank you.
Okay, the bill will be laid on the table. Okay, so we're right on the table now. And we're adjourned.
Thank you.